Welcome to the Rich Relationship Podcast with Gil
and Renee, where amazing things happen. Our goal is to help build, repair, and restore healthy relationships.
Our primary focus is on the marriage relationship. However, the topics are applicable to the relationships that we value most. Remember, we're stronger together.
Let's grow.
Well, this is a good episode, babe, that we're going to have right now. I was thinking about it as we talk. And I love that we actually get to meet people. And it's amazing how God has these divine connections that we just meet people through the internet, or other means. And we're going to be talking to Thaddeus and Amanda Randolph. We actually met them. I think we talked about it because we both use the same type of program when it comes to mentoring couples and doing those things.
And we were both in the same anthology.
And same anthology. So it kind of like we met through the written word, but now we're going to talk, which is going to be a good thing. So coming up next on this episode of the Rich Relationship Podcast with Gil and Renee.
Stay tuned.
Well, Amanda and Thaddeus, we really appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with us for a few minutes, just sharing some of your information and your story with us. Thank you guys for coming on the show with us.
Thank you. We appreciate you for having us.
Yes, you're welcome. We're glad to be a part of the show.
So we always like to ask couples to share their love story, and we'd like to see who starts first. So who would like to start off sharing you guys' love story?
You want to start first?
No, you go first.
It's almost like you guys got to play rock, paper, scissors for it.
I'll start first. We met we were both serving in the military in South Korea in the Army. And I just was born again, and I was in the chapel, just going to a choir rehearsal. And my roommate, who happened to be in the choir, I went with him, and I saw this young lady that was singing in the choir. And after the choir rehearsal, I asked my roommate, I said, who is that? And so he began to tell me who it was. He said, well, you want to introduce me? I said, no. I just want to know who it was. But we, through going out together and going to different venues, I eventually joined the choir. So we start to interact and start to get to know one another. And I eventually asked her out on a date. Is that right?
Almost.
I asked her out on a date, but it took a little bit, and just because at the time, actually at the particular time, I was a little hesitant because she was already involved with someone. I found out later on, so I was a little bit hesitant.
I got a curious question, not to interrupt you, but why did you want to meet her right then and there when you found out who she was, or like at your initial sight on it, on Amanda?
Well, I was just I guess at the first I was just kind of curious.
Okay.
It piqued my interest when I saw her.
She piqued your interest.
She piqued my interest when I saw her. So, so I asked my roommate about her.
Okay.
And so, yes. And just talking to her, I think we found out that, she was actually engaged to someone else. So, but I didn't let that deter me. So, is that right?
Yes.
She said yes. So from there, we just began I remember the day of our first date. We went down to a town called Pyeongtaek in South Korea. We took the bus down, and we had dinner at a restaurant, nice little Korean restaurant. And we, think we went around shopping and walking around, just walk around and talking. And, we started dating right after that, started dating some more right after that.
Yeah, we didn't get lost in the town either.
No, we didn't get lost in the town. It's kind of urban. There's not too many Americans in town. There's a lot of, locals in South Korea. So, but we did get lost. And, but we had a great time, and, we started seeing each other after that.
Wow, that was the first date, wasn't it?
That was the first date. I remember.
You do.
So, Amanda, tell me about this person you were engaged to.
Ooh, I won't go into too much detail. Let's see. When I met Thaddeus, the person that I was engaged to, we had been dating for probably about 8 to 9 months.
Okay.
And he was getting ready to PCS from Korea within about 2 months of me meeting Thaddeus. So we became engaged before he left Korea.
Okay.
But I had recently given my life to Christ October 31st, as a matter of fact. So in giving my life to Christ, I knew that something was going to have to give, because I was very into the scriptures, and the scriptures say not being unequally yoked.
Right.
And I couldn't force this other individual to become a Christian or to become saved. Although he did try church a couple of times, it really wasn't something that he was interested in. But my heart was still knit with his at that time. And when I met Thaddeus, I really wasn't interested because I was involved with someone else.
Right.
And so I really didn't plan on giving him too much time. I didn't play hard to get, but I wasn't interested because in my mindset, I was already involved with someone and I wasn't looking for anybody else.
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of the backstory on that.
Because I think sometimes people don't understand that in the military, not only do we make friends fast, but sometimes we go into marriage a lot faster than the average.
Just to go a little bit further, once Thaddeus and I did meet, I only liked him as like a friend, but then eventually it began to grow a little bit more as we hung out a little bit more with our friends.
Because, I think sometimes people don't understand that in the military lifestyle, because we move around so much, we make relationships a lot. It kind of speeds up our relationships as far as marriage and even making friends. And so it doesn't mean that because you were engaged to someone else and then you met Thaddeus that you were being unfaithful. It just means that I think that like as a military dependent or a person in the military, sometimes relationships are accelerated. That
is true to some extent, especially when you're overseas, because you become involved with the person, and when you're, especially in Korea's a short tour.
Yeah.
So you meet someone, you fall in love, and you're like, well, what's the next step? And one or both of you are going to leave the assignment. So you have to decide what you're going to do prior to leaving the assignment, either become engaged or get married. And that's kind of how that relationship was. We became engaged before he left, and I couldn't really do the long distance relationship piece.
Right.
And I had decided to go ahead and re-enlist and stay in the Army, and he was getting out. So long story short, I ended up staying in Korea an additional year, and we were going to be separated that whole year. So just doing that long distance thing, this didn't work out.
So Thaddeus, as you were going through the dating process, and once you found out that Amanda was prior engaged, and were you okay with just being friends, or did you just decide that you wanted things to go further, but wanted to still respect what she was going through?
I wasn't sure at the time. I think I may have been interested, but we were all in the choir. So, like after church or different things, fellowship, we would all hang out. So we were kind of around each other a lot. So being around each other a lot, we kind of started hanging out more and going to places, not only by ourselves, but with other people. So, but yeah, it didn't bother me because I really wasn't sure where it was going. I don't think I was really ready for a serious relationship, but I was new to this thing called new to being saved and all of that. So I was still trying to figure that out too, and still not trying to be the old Thaddeus as well.
Yeah. So how long were you guys friends before your relationship progressed, and what was the turning point for you, Thaddeus, that made you realize this is the one, she is the one?
Wow. Well, we were friends, but it wasn't that long. We were friends. It wasn't that long. Like you said, that's the military. It was a couple of months. But what happened, I went to a training exercise in the military. They have these training exercises that you go away to, and you stay out in the middle of nowhere. I think this one was actually called Team Spirit. So we had to do joint exercise with South Koreans. And in that exercise, I was contemplating it and I was praying, had time away, to really think about what I wanted to do and how I wanted how far I want our relationship to go. So I really began to pray and seek God about it. And, I'll be doing that time and doing that time away and praying and seeking God. He gave an answer. And when I came back from that, I proposed.
Did it surprise you, Amanda, that while he was out in the foxhole doing his soul searching or doing that inward journeying, were you going through the same thing? And did it surprise you when he came back and proposed so quickly?
No, I wasn't going through the same thing. And it did surprise me a little bit, but not too much.
Okay.
Part of the reason it didn't surprise me was because pretty much that whole year prior, I stayed in 1st and 2nd Corinthians and in Romans, specifically Corinthians, when Paul was talking about marriage and being in marriage, and knowing that I wanted to be a wife. So I believe that God was preparing me by me staying in the Word, in prayer about what type of relationship I was going to be in, not necessarily who, but what type of relationship I was going to be in and what the purpose of that relationship was going to be. And I did have some specific requests that I put forth to God as for how or what I wanted my mate to be, as far as character and being Christ-like. And the previous relationship, knowing that the other person, church and Christianity, wasn't for him, that kind of helped me make my decision to sever that relationship. And so going forward, I knew what I was looking for in the character as far as a mate was concerned. So I really, just to go back and answer your question, I really wasn't too surprised, but I did say yes. And we probably dated about 6 weeks before he proposed, if 6 weeks.
I thought it was maybe a couple months, but you know, right?
Say 6 weeks.
It was pretty quick.
So Thaddeus, as you think about that, and especially about dating, so having a short dating time frame, and you did a little bit of soul searching while you were out in the field, and Amanda was kind of doing the same things. Can you talk about how character really played into you deciding that this was something you wanted to spend time with?
Yeah, it did. Like I said, I was a baby Christian, trying to figure out, what a Christian was like. I know in my previous life,
before Christ days,
character was important to me, but it was not as important. I didn't know anything about being a Christian man. I didn't know anything about I didn't know anything about that. So I was learning and figuring that out. And in my mind, I said, well, I wanted, if I'm going to do it, I wanted to do it right. And I wanted to do it, I want to do it the way God would have me to do it. So the Bible, the characteristics of a godly man and a godly husband, all of that, it played a role in me making my decision. I know I didn't want to do it the way, live the lifestyle that I had been living. So I wanted to change that. And I knew by doing this, that would help me change that and help me go in direction that God was having me to go.
So no more player for you.
Who said anything about being a player?
Now, how old were you all when you guys started dating? How old were you?
I was 22 and she was 19.
Okay.
So we were very young.
And then how old were you guys when you guys got married?
That's how old we were.
You were 19.
So quick,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you were 19.
We were 19. And you're right, Renee. Being in the military, because we both knew in order for us to, if we were going to get married, in order for us to be stationed in the same place, we had to get married, get orders that would actually place us in the same place. So it does kind of like change the dynamics of a relationship. It's not that you're rushing anything, but if you want to get married, you think you want to spend the rest of your life with someone, those time frames do come into play. And it does kind of speed up the process.
Yes. And I think being in the military makes you a little bit more, you're like more of a no nonsense kind of person. You kind of look at what really matters, like you said, because in the military, in order for you to be stationed at the same place, you have to be on the same orders. And so therefore you have to be married. And so I think that it was an advantage for us to have lived in a military community, because I think it makes you mature and it makes you grow up. Because you think about it, you guys were 19 and 21. Look at the average 19 and 21-year-old today compared to how we were at 19 and 21. And I think that it forced us to grow up. And so what would you share with, so how many children do you guys have? Do you guys have boys?
We have two sons. Our oldest son is 26 and our youngest son is 11. So there's a bit of an age gap between the two, 15 years to be exact, 15 years, 1 week.
Yeah.
But we've talked with both of our sons about our relationship, how we met, how old we were when we got married, especially our oldest son. We used to, kind of tell him that when he turned 22, actually, I told him when he was 19, I had already been in the military for 2 years.
Yes.
And when he turned 22, I said, do you know your dad and I were married when he was 22 and I was 19, and we both were on a career path in the military at that time frame. And we applaud him for going to college, graduating college, and becoming an adult on his own. And in looking at relationships, one of the things that we asked him about, because he has a lot of friends, and we say, you have friends that have parents. How many of them are actually still together?
Yes.
Or, they're living or they came up in a single parent home. Because one of the things that we wanted to do was break that generational choice that both of us grew up in, because we both grew up in single parent homes.
Yes.
And we wanted to set an example and leave a legacy to where he would understand what it's like to grow up with two parents. And interestingly, one of his comments was that of all my friends, I'm the only one that both parents are still together.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we're like unicorns, y'all. It's like you got married young and you're still married and you like each other and you're in marriage ministry. And that was one of the things that really attracted me to you two, was because it's not often that you find people that, I think that the more you have in common with people, the more likely it is for you to really have lasting relationships. And so again, you guys are saying the same reason why we went into marriage ministry was because we didn't have those examples and we didn't have people around us to help us. What is, if you had to say the area that you focus on the most in relationships, what would be your passion? What would be the area that you guys would say, this is the thing that we have found is like our secret sauce?
It would be a couple, but I would say for us, I think when we always tell couples, they say that the most people having trouble in marriage is either communication, money, or sex. But we always tell couples, if you can't communicate, you can't talk about money or sex. You can't even talk about that. So I think communication would be one. We try to teach couples and try to encourage them to communicate as best they can. Communication is a key to marriage, whether it's verbal or nonverbal. We all communicate, and I think we try to teach them that that's very important, that they communicate with one another constantly, and not to be assertive and not be passive in their communication. If one is passive, to learn how to become more assertive. Because we found out a lot of couples is, even with us in our marriage, that if you are passive in your relationship, that you'll bottle all that up, and then one day something will happen and then it'll explode. But you could have said some of that stuff months ago or a long time ago. But we try to teach couples to be assertive in their conversation with one another, to be able to express themselves, to say what they need and say what they want in the relationship, not in a nasty way, not in a angry way, but just to be calm and say, hey, this is what I need, this is what I want, this is what I would like. I like it when you do this, I don't like it when you do that. Just to have that conversation, and I think to be transparent and upfront with one another. I think that that goes a long way to letting the other person know where they stand.
Yeah, in addition to the communication, I would say expectations.
Yeah.
Expectations are key, because you have to communicate your expectations, what it is that you expect in your relationship, what it is you expect of your partner, your spouse, or the person that you're in a relationship with. If you don't communicate those expectations, then they become unmet, then you can become frustrated, disillusioned, and hard to get along with within your relationship. We learned that some time ago that frustration, disillusionment lead to people being dissatisfied in their relationship. And we've had to grow through both of those.
Yeah.
And we're still growing because we don't know it all. And we're still learning, even though we've been married 34 years and been together just as long as we've been married, we are still learning better ways to communicate, better ways to communicate what our expectations are, because we found that we have grown and gone through different seasons within our relationship.
Yes.
We've had some good days, some good years. We've had some bad days and some bad years.
Yes.
And through all of that, we've had to learn to grow in communication and our expectations.
And that's great that you recognize it, that those expectations are something that is really vital in the communication part. If you can, think back to when you guys were just establishing, because you were so young when you got married, for a couple that may be listening that is also kind of in that stage. What was some of the hardest transitions that you, if you can think of anything, the transitions that you made from being that single young person to some of the things that you had to adapt to as a married couple now? Not necessarily now today, but when you first got married and it was so quickly, was there some hard adjustments that you guys had to make as individuals to becoming a couple that you can think of?
Yes. I say yes. We talk about this, sometimes, occasionally. We talk about this because in every house, in every relationship, especially when you're talking about you being a couple, you're bringing two different people together to live in a joint or combined household, especially, you're coming together when you're married. So you got two separate people with two different perspectives on life, two different sets of experiences that are coming together, two different sets of frameworks for their worldview. And when you bring those together, there's going to be conflict, for lack of a better term. Not saying that conflict is bad. Conflict is not bad. Conflict is actually an opportunity for the individuals to learn and to grow together. So for us, I'm the oldest child, and I was so independent and so used to, saying this needs to be done and having it done. My husband, Thaddeus, the youngest child.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to call him a child because he's not a child anymore, but he is the youngest of all of his siblings. Yeah. So he was used to things already being done, and expectation for him to do certain things was kind of low. On the other hand, we bring us together. My expectation is for him to do a lot more than what he was used to doing.
Yeah. It took me a while to figure that out. And for me, and come to that realization, I think one thing I would tell younger couples is to definitely do some type of premarital counseling if you're going to get married, to try to find out more about one another, because everything's not you're not going to find out everything out while in the dating process. But sometime in that premarital counseling, you'll be able to dig some other things out. You begin to learn more about each other. You can kind of develop those expectations in the relationship as well. I think it took me a while to figure out that those differences, that we have differences, that we were not alike. Even though we both were saved and we both Christians going to church together, we still had our own. We were still not alike. There were certain things we didn't agree on. We didn't like the same movies. No, we didn't like the same music. There's just some things we just didn't agree on. But I had come to realization, okay, that's different. I realized with her, because she was the oldest, that she was more mature. She had matured faster than me because she was the oldest. While her mother was at work, she was taking care of the siblings. So she had matured faster than me. And I didn't have a lot of those responsibilities she had when I was coming up. And I learned that. But that was one of the things that attracted me by her was her independence. I was attracted to her independence, but I found out later she was stubborn. I was not attracted to that.
And it's funny.
I was attracted to her independent, but I was not attracted to her stubborn.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how a coin has two sides? And the very side that we're attracted to, when it flips over and we see the other side of that, it's like, oh, I didn't know that comes with it. And so it's good. So when couples are talking about, I'm listening to your story and you guys talk about your differences. When people say opposites attract, I would have to say I don't agree that opposites attract. I think that while you may be attracted to someone that's the opposite to you, what keeps you together would be the things you guys are alike. So what would be the areas where you guys are alike, the things you guys share that has kept you all together for these beautiful 34 years?
I was actually a couple asked us this question the other day, and I told them the three pillars for us in my mind, the man may have a different one, has been faith, family, and finances. Mm-hmm. I think those three things has been a common ground for us. We both are strong in our faith. We both believe in family because of how we came up. Mm-hmm. We really want to turn that around. And when it comes to finances, we both grew up in poverty. So we're very, I want to use the word serious, but we're very, intentional on purpose about our finances. So those three things we have in common: faith, family, and finance.
Yeah, and I echo the same thing. So we are very, very. And one of the things that I prayed for, remember, as I mentioned earlier, that during that time frame that I believe God was preparing me, one of the things that I asked God for character-wise in a husband was a person that loved him just as much as I did. Right. So faith is very, very paramount to our relationship. And second to faith would be family, again, because family has always been important. And I want to make sure that we are leaving a legacy for our children. And then, of course, the finances, as Thaddeus said, growing up when you don't have enough, you want to make sure that you manage what you do have properly and being good stewards. And with that, finances, it's not just hoarding it and keeping it to ourselves, but it's also being generous and being able to give back or give into the community or the household of faith where you may be serving in.
I love that, the three pillars, because I think it's important that couples can focus on, because, the Bible says wherever things are good and pure and lovely and of a good report. And I think that the longer couples have been married, they kind of forget about the positive things about their spouse. Because people are like, oh my gosh, how could you be the same person for that long? Well, one, I focus on the things that I love about him. And I focus on why we got married, and I focus on what our relationship can do. And so I think that when we learn to, like you said, manage our finances and manage our families in ways where we're thinking about legacy, I think it makes a great difference. And so I appreciate what you guys are doing in marriage ministry to help couples and to be there, because we need each other. When you make a commitment to serve God and marriage, there's not a lot of us out here who really have a heart for marriage. And so I commend you all, and tell us a little bit about what your next step is. What are you guys doing to further reach couples and to really help them to not be the same way we all were?
Well, something that has been on our heart for years was to coach and mentor couples in their relationship, whether they're engaged, seriously dating, married, newly married, or they've been married for a long time. And we both became certified Prepare and Enrich facilitators while we were working on, Thaddeus became a Prepare and Enrich facilitator while working on his master's at Liberty University. And then I was working on my master's in marriage and family at Liberty at the same time, not as a therapist, but as a paraprofessional working. I can work hand in hand with the therapist if I so desired, but I really wanted to get into the coaching and mentoring. And so that's something that we've been working on now for about 5 years. Yeah. We've been using Prepare and Enrich to coach and mentor couples in our local church. That's where it started at. And we've since grown, and we've helped some couples here in the local community through word of mouth with referrals from some local pastors, where we've helped some of the couples within their church. And this year, with the quarantine for COVID, God really pressed on our heart to give birth to what we had been dreaming of years and years ago. And so we're launching Total Grace Solutions, which is a coaching and mentoring consultation LLC for married couples or engaged couples or couples that are seriously contemplating getting married, even individual coaching and mentoring as well for men and women. So that's the big why for 2020 for us. Yeah. That's the big why for us in 2020.
Yeah. I think, like Amanda said, God pressed upon our heart. I told her, I said, well, I think we had a time where through our experiences and through what God has allowed us to come through and given us the grace to come through, we're at a point that we can really share with others and help others, maybe not go down the same roads or we went down, or to maybe give them some advice. I think we're in that time frame where we can really share with others and maybe empower, impart to others. So I think this was probably the right season and the right time to go forward with Total Grace Solutions and really help other couples and really mentor other couples and coach them through not only just bad times, but coach them to how do you handle the good times.
Yeah.
What? So as you guys have been moving on, you share with us some of your future or some of your past is how you guys met and some of the difficulties you had growing up. One of the questions that we always like to ask our couples is now, knowing what you know now, these 34 years into the future now, what advice would you give a young couple as they start out that you would have gave yourself if you know what you know now?
I think I'd go back to what Thaddeus said. Getting or having that premarital counseling is very key to having a successful relationship. If you're very serious about the person that you're in a relationship with and both of you are looking forward to having a lasting marriage, then premarital counseling is definitely key for you to have a successful beginning. And as you become married, even as a young couple, surround yourself with other couples that not so much that are newly married like you, but someone that you can learn, other couples that you can learn and grow from. One of the things that I wish we would have had, even though we did not have good examples of what godly marriages looked like growing up, we did have some exposure to people being married. And even after becoming Christians and becoming married, we had examples within the church of married couples, but I think there were few that we really looked up to. So I would say surround yourself with couples that can really pour into you and impart into you some wisdom. Because one of the things that I wish I would have had would have been a well-seasoned wife and mother that could help me walk through those times where I didn't know exactly. I love my husband, but I didn't like my husband. So how can I continue to love him and like him when I don't like what he does? So I wish I would have had someone that could help me walk through those seasons and I wouldn't have to learn it as I was going along. Not saying that learning as I go along was bad, but I think having someone there with me to walk me through that would have helped me ease through that season a lot quicker than what I did.
I think that's a great point that you just made. You said something that kind of resonated with me, Amanda, that you said you didn't like your husband at the time. What did you go through to actually help you with that transition can you speak to that a little bit for those who are maybe in that situation where they are married or in a possible dating scenario where they don't really like the person that they're with?
I'd go back to what Renee said earlier about remembering what it is that I love about my husband, the good qualities, not so much staying with those negative thoughts that I have according to the word. The word tells us to think on those things which are lovely, pure, and peaceful, to think on those things and to remember the good qualities that's in Thaddeus. I had to remind myself in that season, why is it that I love him? Why is it that we're in this relationship together? Is what I'm going through with him more important than my relationship? That's one of the things that we also tell couples when they have a disagreement or they're in conflict with one another, is this conflict more important than our relationship? And if my answer is no, then my relationship is more important. And I need to look on the inside of me to say, what is it that I can do to help me make it through this season a lot easier? Not so much easier, but what is it that I can help me to learn and grow in this season? That's what I meant to say.
Right.
One of the things, to speak to that too, from my perspective, I realize that when you're younger and you get married, you really are still trying to figure out who you are. And like you noticed, you said you're the oldest and he's the youngest. I think that what I had to learn to do was, I remember going to the Lord so many times, asking the Lord to change Gil, change the girls, change Gil. And the Lord just kept reminding me, that he said, how about if I change you so that when they do what they do, it won't bother you? And so I think that for younger women or women who are older, I think that when we really begin to focus on what do we need to do? And it's not that those things are not, we're not saying that the issues in our relationships are not there. We're just saying that you talk to your husband or your spouse about it one time, you pray about it, and then you ask yourself, why does that bother me so much? Because I think some things we feel is just that they're feelings. And our feelings change. And that's what makes marriages last, is just like you talked about, having someone around you that could have reminded you. Because it's not that you didn't get it. It's just that it would have been a little bit easier to understand it. And then you can help somebody else with it. And so that's why this, having mentors, having people in your life who are outside of your relationship. Because I remember going to my aunt and telling my aunt, Gil is just not stroking my ego. And she was like, really? You want somebody to stroke your ego, or someone's going to be with you for the rest of your life? And so we need that. And so thank you guys for being that for people, because people really need people to walk alongside them.
Yes.
Yes.
Because you guys are, so tell us a little bit more about what mentoring is and what coaching is from you guys' perspective. How are you guys navigating the difference between mentoring and coaching?
We really said coaching. A lot of people, especially in our community, the word counseling has a negative connotation to it. Mm-hmm. And people will shy away from counseling. I don't want to be in counseling. So we wanted to use the word coaching, working with couples. You have to let the couple do the heavy lifting, I call it. You have to let them most of the work, and we're just there to coach you and to help you and to assist you and to kind of push you along the way. We don't want to do all the heavy lifting for you, answer all the questions, or try to figure it out for you. We're just there to kind of coach you and mentor you and guide you through this season. But you're going to have to put in the heavy lifting, put in the homework to figure it out yourself, and do the homework to figure it out yourself. I think that's our take on the coaching and mentoring part, as opposed to counseling.
Yeah. Another thing too is that the coachee is the one that actually established the goals that they want to meet for themselves. Yeah. It's not where we're telling them what they need to do. They're actually deciding what it is that they want to do, that they're willing to do.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
So as we coming up at the end of this episode, how can people reach out to you guys if they need some mentoring and some coaching and just to touch base with the Randolphs?
Well, first of all, you can find us on Facebook at Thad and Amanda Randolph. And under Thad and Amanda Randolph, you can also look for Total Grace Solutions on Facebook, on Twitter, and Instagram. Is it Thad and Amanda, or is it Total Grace Solutions?
It's Thad and Amanda.
Thad and Amanda on Instagram and Twitter.
You can also reach us. Our email address is totalgracesolutions@gmail.com.
Well, wonderful. So in closing, I want to ask you to share something that you guys have done as a couple that has kept your relationship fun. You guys both share something, and then that will help somebody.
Well, I'll start with me. One of the things Thaddeus likes to do is golf. And I've since decided that I am willing to take up golf.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna try to do my best to allow him to teach me how to golf, to coach me. And I pray that he has the patience to coach me through golfing. In the meantime, one of the things that we've done recently is he's taught me more about golf by playing on the PS4 than actually me watching golf with him. because I think golf watching on television is boring.
So what's your thing, Thaddeus?
My thing, I think, is, although she might not believe, but we like to do a lot of traveling, and we like to go see different things. And she likes to go on nature walks, but she don't think I really like it. But I actually do. I like going on nature walks. I like going to different places because I'm a history buff. I like history. And those are some of the fun things we're doing together. We go to different places to see history. There's a lot of places here in Virginia that you can go to and learn about history. So we like going to those places, doing a little nature walk, walk up down the countryside and hills. So I like doing that.
That is so good.
That's awesome. Well, we really appreciate you guys hanging out with us and investing, as we say, in our community. We really appreciate you guys' time.
We appreciate you guys. Thank you, Renee and Gil, for having us. We appreciate you guys as well for all that you do for couples and just what you do for the community that you're in.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for your investment in time. Remember to subscribe to the show and hit the notification icon to be notified when new episodes are posted on the podcast platform that you're listening from.
Or you can always find us on our website at richrelationshipsus.com or our YouTube channel, Rich Relationships with Gil and Renee. If you found this podcast helpful or you think it could help someone that you know and care about, please pass it along and share it with them.
And also, you can always send your questions and comments to richrelationships.us@gmail.com. This is a weekly podcast, and the new episodes are going to be posted on Monday by 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Remember, we're stronger together.
Let's grow.